Welcome. Thanks for tuning in to the next part of our weather series, which is all about clouds. Clouds are essentially collections of water droplets or ice crystals at various levels of the atmosphere. And what you need to remember and understand are a couple of characteristics of air if you're going to understand clouds. Remember, we live in a part of the atmosphere here at the surface of the Earth, the lowest part of the atmosphere. It's called the troposphere. And in this part of the atmosphere, as you go up, the temperature goes down. So, as warm air rises with its moisture, it starts to cool. And the colder that air gets, the less moisture it can hold. So eventually, that moisture is going to be essentially wrung out of the warm air or the colder air in the atmosphere, and it's going to start to collect on small particles, nuclei. It could be dust particles, it could be small particles of sea salt in the air, but those particles are going to act as nuclei for these water droplets or ice crystals to collect around. And once enough of them are present, you get clouds. So today we're going to talk about what types of clouds there are, how clouds are classified, and we'll talk a little bit about how they might indicate to us what type of weather we have in store at a particular time and a particular place. So, humidity and relative humidity are important terms. They're terms that you hear a lot as you're listening to local forecasts. And humidity refers to the amount of water vapor that is in the air. Now, saturation is a condition in the atmosphere in which the rates of evaporation and condensation are equal. So, with saturation, when the air becomes saturated with moisture, it can't hold anymore. Everything that evaporates is going to immediately want to condense because the air essentially has no room to hold this water. Relative humidity compares the amount of water vapor in the air with the maximum amount of water vapor that can be present at that temperature. And a really neat measurement that we have is dew point. Dew point is the temperature at which air with a given amount of water vapor will reach saturation. When you think about dew point, if you think about having a cold drink outside in the summertime, you have your ice cubes in the water or whatever the drink may be, and you start to see condensation outside of the glass, that's because the air around the glass has hit its dew point, okay? So these are all terms that we're not going to go into too much depth about, but you need to consider and you need to be aware of if you really want to understand the atmosphere and weather. So, as I mentioned earlier, quickly in the onset of this video, as air rises in the atmosphere, it cools. The water vapor that's in that air condenses into water droplets or ice crystals. And once those droplets or crystals get heavy enough, they fall as precipitation, which is what we're going to take a look at in the next video in the series. Water vapor condenses and forms clouds. So what happens is cold air, as it moves along the surface, it sort of acts like a plow. And as it moves along, it will shove all of the warm air up very quickly, okay? This would be associated with a cold front that's moving through the area. The warm air rises, it quickly cools to its dew point, which makes these water droplets or ice crystals form. They're so light that they float in the air, and they will gather and they'll collect into clouds. Now, when we look at clouds, you have to pay attention to the root words, okay? Because just the name of the cloud itself will give you a lot of clues as to what may be in store as far as the weather goes. So, clouds are classified and named using their appearance, their altitude, and their ability to make precipitation. So let's take a look first at the root words that indicate the cloud's appearance. Stratus or strato is and these are all Latin, by the way. These are root words that mean layered, okay? Cumulus or cumulo means heap or pile. So those are the two root terms that we concentrate on, that we can look at, that help to tell us the shape of the cloud. Stratus clouds generally with layered they're layered clouds, and when you're looking up and you see just, it looks like one giant blanket of clouds from horizon to horizon, generally you're seeing stratus clouds. Cumulus clouds are more like your cauliflower, your popcorn type clouds. I guess a good way to distinguish between stratus and cumulus clouds are, stratus clouds are wider than they are thick, and cumulus clouds are thicker than they are wide. So they appear to have more height to them. We also consider altitude, the height at which the clouds are forming, as we are classifying clouds. So we have the root word cirrus or cirro, which means curl or wisp, and alto, which is a little deceiving, and we'll talk about why here in a second. First, the cirrus clouds are extremely high clouds, the highest clouds in the atmosphere, and cirro is a Latin term meaning curl. So these cirrus clouds are often made entirely of ice crystals. They're at the highest levels of the troposphere, and they look feathery, or like a curl of hair almost in the sky. And although alto means high, that's a little deceiving, because any cloud that has the prefix alto before it is actually going to be a mid-level cloud. They're going to be below the cirrus clouds, but they're not usually at the lowest level of the atmosphere. Finally, when we look at root words, the clouds that indicate precipitation usually have the word nimbus or nimbo in their name, and that Latin root word means rain. So what you're going to see is we combine these different prefix, suffixes, and root words to describe different type of clouds. If you notice here, you see nimbus or nimbo. When we combine cumulus with nimbo, we get our cumulonimbus clouds, which are these piles of rain clouds, essentially the really thick ones. So just understanding these root words can give you a lot of information about how clouds form and about the state of the weather within a given period of time. So here is a diagram that shows you the high clouds, the middle clouds, and the low clouds, and the 10 most basic cloud types that we consider as we're talking about clouds. We see up here the high clouds, or cirrus clouds. You see the word cirro in all of those terms. Generally, the high clouds range from 25 to 50,000 feet up into the atmosphere. Our middle level clouds here are stratus clouds, okay? And alto, obviously, is the root word that would describe these middle level clouds. The lowest clouds are our cumulus clouds. Fair weather cumulus clouds kind of hang low in the atmosphere, but those cumulonimbus clouds you see, like the ones here, these are our thunderheads, and these are the ones that bring our thunderstorms and our severe weather. So keep this in mind as you're gazing up into the sky. See if you can identify some of these cloud shapes, and maybe it'll help you to even predict some of the weather that's going to be hitting shortly. This is one of my favorite resources. It is the NOAA, National Weather Service, and NASA's Skywatcher chart. And you can see here, we've got in the top row our high clouds, the middle row, our mid-level clouds. And in the bottom row here, well, the second to last row, I guess, would be our low clouds. The ones on the bottom row there are considered more of the special type clouds. So you see here, I told you we generally recognize 10 basic cloud types, and those are cirrus clouds, cirrostratus clouds, and cirrocumulus clouds. Those cover the high clouds. The typical types of middle level clouds are your altostratus clouds, your altocumulus clouds, and your nimbostratus clouds. Low clouds, the typical types of low clouds would be your stratus, stratocumulus, your cumulus clouds, and your cumulonimbus clouds. So diagrams like this can be really helpful. Charts like this can be really helpful to identify the types of clouds that are in the atmosphere. You see here these cirrus clouds, the wispy tail-like clouds that are composed completely of ice crystals, and they're the ones that are the highest in the atmosphere. Our altostratus clouds, when you have that day where it's just sort of intermittent sun, you can barely see the sun poking through the clouds, a gray day, is dominated by these altostratus clouds. And the low clouds, you have fair weather cumulus clouds here and here, and the darker clouds often indicate precipitation is on the way. Now, when I was growing up, I was lied to. I was told that clouds are gray because they're full of rain, and that rain is getting ready to dump on you. Well, there is a little bit of truth to that, but basically when you see gray clouds in the sky, it's because those clouds are so thick that the sunlight can't penetrate all the way through them. And essentially it's casting a shadow along the bottom of the cloud. So hopefully this was helpful in your understanding of clouds. Hopefully you'll print out this little Skywatcher chart and go out and practice a little bit. We'll take a look at some more of these other clouds, the tornado, the wall cloud, and things like that as we get into more specific aspects of weather. But for now, get out and enjoy the sky. It's unique at every moment. We'll see you next time.